What's up, everybody? John Delarose here, the leading Hispanic voice in science fiction. I don't always put my face on the screen, but sometimes, I want to connect with you guys, let you know I'm a human being. This is my recording studio. It is a professional grade recording studio, also known as a closet. But you hear, the sound's pretty nice in here, and that's why I record everything in here. I also want to show off my Dynamite Thor t-shirt. This is from my graphic novel earlier this year. The superhero, his uniform, done in the retro style. Super stoked about this. And I should make a video about t-shirts and stuff like that. I'll do that soon because we have some news regarding that. And you should be aware of what's going on that front because people are attempting to deplatform are basically the people who work with us. And that's what we have to deal with every day here just for telling the truth. But today we have such an exciting news story to talk about that I think that we should just go for that. So let's get to it. All right. So this is my blog this morning. I also don't like to repeat my blog on the channel here because I figure you already read my blog, so you probably already know about this. But this does bear a little bit talking about because of their massive DC Comics layoffs. As reported by Pounding Into Comics. Pounding Into Comics is my favorite news source and all that. I don't do alerts and things like that on any site. But here we go. And this came out that there was going to be massive layoffs all the way up and down the chain at DC. Their movies have been failing. I mean, they just really have not done the level that Marvel has, and they just don't have the DC or the Disney machine really pushing those quite as hard. But there's been a fluke here and there with a couple of good movies that have surpassed everything. But by the same token, it just really hasn't caught fire like the way the Marvel Universe movies have. And so that trickles all the way down the chain. And here's why. Because these comic companies do not care about comics. I'll repeat, these comic companies do not care about comics. You are not important to them. You, the comic reader, are the least important facet of their machine. These are IP farms for movies and TV and games and apps. And that's all they care about. That's all they care about. Comics are such small potatoes, it doesn't matter. But because it's all gone down the chain, the comics are getting slashed. Apparently the entire collectible department got slashed. And this is very interesting. The ship's been going the wrong direction for a while. We've just seen the constant reboots causing problems, no real direction, no real long-term plan. And this is what happens when you have this many properties with this kind of thing. I think there's been no worse department, frankly, than the DC Collected Edition department. And I don't know who's impacted out of this or who's, laid off or not. But DC Collected Editions has really caused problems on every front. And for those who don't know, this isn't a political thing or anything like that, but Marvel's really got their act together with collected editions. They have beautiful omnibuses that come out, and they come out regularly. They really support their lines. They've got the whole Epic Collection line, which I talk about quite a bit on here. And it makes you want to read those old comics, even if you're not into the whole current year comic industry and all that. And none of these companies make any money off of floppy issues going to the stands or anything like that. If you are not aware, the industry's been like that for a long time. The floppies cost too much to print. They barely break even on them. And then they really make their bread and butter on the graphic novels. And that's why every story is written to the graphic novel these days, that you have a 6-issue storyline and a part 3 of 4 or whatever. You can't even hop into a storyline at that point. It's really ruined comics on a lot of levels, but that's the profitability, and that's where they go, and that's what they do, and it's hurt the industry on a lot of levels, but that is where it is. So DC has a lot of problems with their collected edition department in that they can't maintain formats. So you'll be mid-series, and they'll change their logo so that these are things that people who want nice collected edition hardcovers want. They change their logo or they change the design of the jacket or whatever, and suddenly it's a different book. Or there's lots of more problems. We're going to get to all of them here because I'm going to rant about all of them. This is why nobody buys DC collected editions compared to Marvel. I mean, hands down. And so it's important stuff. And this does have to do with company profitability and layoffs. they'll reboot a omnibus. So it's like everybody bought the Super Sons omnibus, so they're resoliciting a new Super Sons omnibus just with a few issues more content or something like that. Well, why didn't you just put all that in the first one to begin with? I mean, it upsets collectors because nobody wants to have to buy the same thing twice. And DC loves reprinting the same storylines over and over again. You get the upteenth Watchmen printing or whatever, but you cannot get a lot of their 80s and 90s work for a lot of different titles, and they're just not available. You look at Chuck Dixon's, which one is it? You look at Chuck Dixon's Robin, for example, they put like 4 or 5 volumes out of it, canceled it. You can't get the whole run. It's just a disaster. And then let's go on to cancellations. So they'll solicit something. Say they solicit, there's so many examples I can give. But say, let's go with Jonah Hex. They had a Jonah Hex, and they were going to do a Silver Age omnibus of Jonah Hex. It was going to be a big, thick omnibus. Well, they canceled it. They were going to do a John Byrne Superman omnibus. Well, they canceled it. Now, later, they resolicited it, and they put out John Byrne hardcover volume 1, but it's a regular-sized hardcover, not an oversized hardcover. It's got not that much content. It's not an omnibus. Same with Jonah Hex. They did the exact same thing. And so what happens is fans get disillusioned because fans who are collecting the Silver Age omnibuses want the full Silver Age omnibuses and that to happen at some point. Well, they're not going to get it out of the Jonah Hex and the All-Star Western stuff at this point because they just are doing these regular hardcovers instead. And so that, wrecks those lines and discourages collectors who are interested in really completing all of this old work. And that's where Marvel's got it right. I mean, Marvel's got the Epic collections, which are really going strong, which are collecting everything. And they're not messing around. They're not messing around with spines. They keep them the same all the way through. It just looks good. And it's great. And they do very similar with their omnibuses. You never see Marvel cancel one of their omnibuses that they're going to put out. And sometimes they do put out obscure stuff that you wouldn't expect them to. Like they're going to put out an Avengers omnibus of the what era is it? The leather jacket era. I mean, not a lot of people would like that, but it does collect all of that run, and that way the omnibus collectors can have a good run of almost everything from Avengers. And that's exactly the goal of these collector's editions to begin with. So the collector's department honestly has screwed the pooch on so many levels. It makes it very hard to collect. And if you look at DC, that's kind of how they operate all the way around with their collectibles. They operate like this with their comics. I mean, you've got your DC Rebirth, and then suddenly they stop making DC Rebirth oversized hardcovers like halfway through it. They always do these initiatives that are big, and then they half do them and then cancel them. Even with Batman Metal, when they had those new series that were going to spawn out of them, well, the one everybody liked and all that, they canceled it, within 12 issues. I mean, there was just no follow through on the initiative and no commitment to any new initiatives or new ideas. And that's what fans want in a continuity-based situation is commitment and the just staying the course. Company can't do that, and so they fail at every level, and so everybody's getting the axe. I guess Jim Lee got demoted from publisher. That's where we're at today. So that's my rant. It's going to be different than a lot of people's rants because a lot of people are going to talk about the politics and the SJWs and all this, and that's what you're going to get out of the YouTube channels. But honestly, there's just very basic business decisions that are being made poorly that make it difficult for people to want to get invested in this universe, and that's on them. So I hope they change it. I'm available if you want me to take over the collected editions department, people. My plan would be, this is my like presidential platform plan. My plan would be to make an epic style collection that would encapsulate the entire post-crisis DC universe, starting at the beginning and going all the way up to New 52. With matching spines. I don't know. I don't have a title for it yet. Obviously, we can't use Epic Collection. We use something similar with 400 or 500 page volumes. That everything will be collected. No orphaned issues. Everything will be in there. Even like the Checkmate stuff from the late 80s. Like we'll get that stuff collected. Stuff that people like don't even know they want to read and buy. It will happen. Kid Flash and Impulse. Remember Impulse? Yeah, everybody wants that. A full Impulse run. I promise this is what I would do as DC collected chairman or whatever it's called. I also promised to reinstate the John Byrne Superman omnibus because everybody wanted that to be an omnibus, not a regular sized hardcover. And I would do similar with Chuck Dixon's Batman run and Doug Moench's Batman run. They had a lot beyond just Nightfall. Those two men really defined Batman in the 80s and early 90s. And we'd give them full omnibuses of all their non-event runs also. So that's it. That is my platform. What do you think about it? All right. Well, I'm committed to making comics, and I'm making comics monthly, guys, and I'm not changing the course or anything like that. I'm going to just show you one of my books real quick. I hope you'll check it out. I always tell you guys, check this out. It's better than DC Comics all the way around. You're not going to get any weird Wonder Woman covers or anything like that. You're just going to get straightforward superhero action. If you're a fan of Green Lantern, and if you're a DC guy, I know you will love The Cosmic Warrior. This is going to be the book for you. This is everything that book kind of promises on a sci-fi level, but doesn't really deliver so much anymore. And this is the pulp classics that you really fell in love with. And The Cosmic Warrior, I want it to be an ongoing series, and it's all on you to make it an ongoing series. You got to tell your friends about this book, tell them to read it. The way to really change this and to send these companies a signal is to support indie comics like this. So I hope you check it out. I'll put the link down below for you to do so. And we will be back soon with some more news and reviews and other things. I hope you enjoyed. See you guys.